1, 2, 1, 2. Is it all working nice? Excellent. Right, so everybody's obviously very aware that the industry is being under a lot of pressure to reduce the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that it emits. And I'm going to talk now about specifically what is possible within the Central Asian context and what practical steps can be taken by mining companies as they develop. So this is some numbers, so you can get an idea as to what is the contribution globally as far as what mining and smelting does. I include smelting because it's obviously integral into producing, as we've just been hearing, and the teams can work together. Now, it's a very strange concept, this idea of people working together, but it is possible for the mining and smelting teams to work together to actually end up with the reduced emissions. So this is why I've grouped that together. And then also the coal mine methane. There's been a lot of focus on the carbon dioxide side of things, but the methane is a major contribution. And I'll talk about some of the aspects and the opportunities to be able to reduce the impacts there, especially in the Central Asian aspect. For those of you who are not familiar with your Scope 1s, your Scope 2s and your Scope 3s, all right, so Scope 1s is what you're doing on site. So for your mine, it's the diesel you're burning on site. Scope 2 is your energy that you're buying. So if you're getting your electricity from the Ekibastos basin, that's what's driving your Scope 2 emissions there. And Scope 3 is where it gets a bit muddled because you've got your upstream and you've got your downstream. So upstream, just to make it simple, is going to be your energy for your reagents, your explosives, things like that, as well as transportation of stuff to site. But downstream is also what your clients want to do. So it's if you're producing a copper concentrate or you're producing an iron concentrate, what the smelter is going to then emit from that. So this is where I talk a bit about the teams working together, because perhaps the mine can produce a better quality, which then makes it easier for the smelter to be able to produce their product. And then as a team working together, you can end up with a reduced emissions. It doesn't necessarily need to cost anything. It just requires people to actually talk together, work out the way to distribute some of the costs and issues to come up with better solutions. So there you are. You're now experts in your Scope 1, 2 and 3s. So many of you know that companies have set reduction targets, setting targets for 2030, 2050. Now 2030, 7 years away. People are looking to achieve massive changes within this. I haven't seen any industry anywhere in the world looking for this scale of change this quickly. People are spending billions of dollars. Each company is spending billions of dollars to be able to achieve some of these changes. And that's just by the 2030. And then trying to get towards 2050 as far as being able to have carbon neutral. I mean, you saw the previous slides saying how much we would generate. Now, to wipe all that off or to balance it up with some mitigation methods, it's a big ask. It's a big challenges here. For the Central Asian market, it is largely being driven by the government, who is saying this is the changes we want to achieve. You'll see the word conditional and conditional and unconditional. Conditional refers to being provided with support from World Bank, from governments, international governments and so on, to be able to help implement some of the changes. And I'll explain a little bit more about where the opportunities are or why they are requesting this. Some of them are against a specific target, 2010. Some of them are against something called business as usual. So if we carried on growing as we want to, we emit this much, but with some change, we'll emit less. But we still want to grow because, hey, it's our right to have the opportunity for growth as well. So, what do? I'm an engineer, so my job is to find solutions. You have a problem, bring an engineer in, we're supposed to find the solutions. So, the key one everybody's going for is renewable energy. Let's go straight in, stop coal, stop gas, go straight to renewable energy. Wonderful if you can do it, and we'll talk a bit more about that. I'll talk about methane. That's another big opportunity, big area, which a number of coal mining companies could do more in. going to a low carbon method of haulage, so whether it's electrification, going for renewable diesel, going to hydrogen, there's a number of opportunities here, but there's no point in electrifying if all you're doing is transferring, you're burning coal to create electricity so you don't burn diesel. And there's ways that you can improve your efficiencies, there's ways that you can also change the way that you're operating or change the equipment you're using or the technologies you're using, which fundamentally have a lower amount of carbon being used. And there's also some very specific opportunities for carbon sequestration. So, coming to the renewable energies. The sun does shine in this area quite a lot. The wind does blow in this area quite a lot. There is a lot of opportunities for renewable energy here. However, when you've got places like the Ekibastos Basin, where you have a huge area of coal, all largely stripped, just there, ready to just mine and send to the power station, you're going to have very low costs. So why do governments want to change from one to the other? Because, okay, it's cheap when the wind is blowing and the sun is shining, but it's going to cost a lot of money to set up those systems. So this is why they're talking about conditional help, because they need to have this assistance to move away from the Ekibastos Basin or the gas that they're generating, because those are currently low-cost sources, which are giving them low-cost power, which is allowing companies to have very effective businesses, as we've been hearing today. So there is opportunity. I mean, Kazakhstan specifically, at the moment, as it says, I've got lots of numbers because I'm an engineer. You can see that it's mostly coming from the coal. There's targets to go for more. If they went for wind solely, they could generate 10 times more electricity from wind than they currently use at the moment. There's that much potential there, and that's without switching on, using the sun, or and then without drawing anything more from the rivers. So there's a lot of opportunity here, but obviously there's cost, and it's going to need the drivers. The mining companies got to say to the government, look, we need this. The World Banks, the EBRDs are saying, look, this is how we can fund it. Various donor companies or countries, maybe UK, might have to get involved to be able to say, look, let's try and set up some of these opportunities, these wind farms, solar opportunities. Methane. If you work in a coal mine, methane is the dirty word. It's a dangerous thing. It's what causes explosions. It's what kills people. So you try to get rid of methane in an underground coal mine. If it's an open pit coal mine, who cares? It just vents out. But obviously now you're having to worry about it because of the greenhouse gas component. What can you do about it? For the underground mine, you can look to capture it. At the moment, a fair chunk is being captured by the coal mines in the Karaganda region, but more could be captured. If you put more of an emphasis, if there's more value to be done by capturing it, then more can be achieved. For the underground mines, there's this worldwide belief that the coal mines can't emit any methane because it's already escaped. I don't quite agree with that. I think there's a lot more that could be done, but it will require pre-draining, which is a challenge. But there is certainly, at the moment, nobody has looked to this area. Therefore, there's opportunities to achieve more if we do look for this area. By the way, the world is watching. Here's some satellite imagery saying that they can see what is the methane being emitted by your coal mine from either underground or open pit. The world is watching, so your investors are watching, so the NGOs and other people are also watching if you have a coal mine. Zero emission haulage. There is some great technology around. So the trolley assist, I was working with this sort of system 30 years ago. It's proven technology, it's available, and it's got some other great benefits, and your trucks can now drive up the ramps 80% faster. So it increases your productivity wonderfully. You've got in-pit crushing conveying. So that's Muruntau. They put in a high-angle conveyor a number of years ago. These solutions are available. There's challenges. They're not easy to put in. You have to change your plans. There's issues, but they are available. The one on the right, the hydrogen truck, so that was commissioned in May this year. So at this mine in South Africa, they've got one on pilot. They plan to then convert 40 trucks by about 2027, 2028. And then if it all goes well, Anglo American then wants to convert 400 trucks to run on hydrogen. So the silver thing in the middle is the fuel cell storage area. The engine has been replaced by a battery and electric fuel cell system. So this is the hydrogen is generated using an electrolyzer which is powered by photovoltaic systems. You've also got renewable diesel, which can come from plant or animal matter. So there are some opportunities, although the problem, and there's a trial going on in the States, Rio Tinto has a truck in operation and it's achieving the same performance as your normal fossil fuel diesel. But the problem is scale is unlikely to be able to have enough of this material available for it, but people are looking at these options. So there are options. Underground, there's a lot of equipment moving over to batteries now, and there's another advantage. But if you don't produce diesel underground, diesel fumes underground, you don't need as much ventilation. The problem in Central Asia is you're not allowed to reduce your ventilation because the regulations tell you can't. The technology people use in Central Asia, a lot of it is old, it's smaller, and it uses more power. There are some techniques around which can allow you to be able to produce more with less. So, this is something that's worth looking at. One way that people analyze the different options, because you've now got all these options, which one gives me the best bang for the buck, is to use a shadow carbon charge. So even if your country is not charging a carbon charge, you can apply one. Several companies are already doing that. They're applying $50 a tonne, some up to $150 a tonne, which is about between 20 to 40% of the diesel costs. And then when you start adding this cost into the mix, you can then come up with different solutions. Everything's always a balance, and by bringing this in, it changes the balance and you'll come up with some different solutions. So, in summary, because Ross has told me to shut up, there is plenty of potential for reducing greenhouse gas emissions in Central Asia and globally. This is a journey that people have only really just been started on. It requires looking at things differently. The renewable energy one is where everybody's grabbing first, but there's challenges in Central Asia. For the coal miners, I would recommend we have another look at this. There is some more opportunities here. As we talk about the haulage and equipment and so on. So hopefully I've given you a very quick journey through the opportunities to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. Plenty of opportunities in the Central Asian market. Key thing is to think about it. Thank you.